Good morning in Switzerland and good afternoon in Shanghai. Welcome to our Art Science Dialogues, Curation in the context of artificial intelligence. My name is Sisi Sun, the head of Art Science at Swissnex in China. Before we start the dialogue, I'll give a brief introduction of our organization. Swissnex in China is part of the Swissnex Global Network. We connect Switzerland, China, and the world in science, research, education, and innovation. Our mission is to support the outreach and active engagement of our partners in the international exchange of knowledge, ideas, and talent. The 6 main Swissnex locations are established in some of the world's most innovative regions: Boston, Brazil, China, India, Japan, and San Francisco. Swissnex is an initiative of the State Secretariat for Education, Research, and Innovation of Switzerland and is part of the Swiss Confederation's network abroad managed by the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. The webinar today is part of our Art Science Dialogues initiated in 2020. This series not only presents artistic projects which scientists and researchers are deeply involved in, but also looks into new initiatives and trends. Through the dialogues between artists, scientists, and curators, we try to stimulate the exchange of ideas between the two different worlds and explore opportunities for collaborations. In this edition of Art Science Dialogue, we will invite Mr. Patrick Keller, architect and co-founder of Fabric.ch, and Ms. Xi Li, curator and director of Aiiiii Art Center, to join the conversation under the topic of curation and artificial intelligence. We will have a discussion session after the presentations, and this discussion will also open to the public at the end. So for our online audience, if you have any questions during the webinar, please type your questions in the Q&A box. We will select and answer the questions in the end. The webinar today will last about 1 hour, and we will share the video recording and the slides to all the registered guests by email afterwards. Now let's welcome our first speaker, Mr. Patrick Keller. Patrick is an architect and co-founder of the collective Fabric.ch, composed of architects, artists, and engineers based in Lausanne, Switzerland. It is in this context that he has contributed to the creation, development, and exhibition of numerous experimental works dealing with the intersection of architecture, networks, algorithm, and data, along with the livable environments. Now let's hear more from Patrick.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for this introduction. I will start sharing my screen. I hope everybody can see it. Thank you for the invitation, Swissnex and Sisi, and for this brief introduction. Maybe I can add a few information about myself and especially the group Fabric.ch, which is based in Switzerland. It's I'm part of it's a collective, in fact, and I'm part of it. I have a background in architecture. I graduated from the Polytechnical School in Lausanne in architecture, but I'm now a teacher also in an art school here in Lausanne called ECAL, University of Art and Design in Lausanne. And our collective Fabric.ch is really a collaboration between architects and computer scientists. So it's really this collaboration between, I would say, an approach that is more about how you develop technologies and conceptual approach to this that is related to both architecture but also the art world, because most of our work, in fact, is dedicated to exhibition. It's quite experimental, so we exhibit quite a lot our work, and we work in the context also of exhibition, so in curation or exhibit design, that kind of thing. So I will present several projects quite quickly. I will try to go quick through those projects, and in fact they are building up one after the other, and they're building up a little bit our process, explaining a little bit our process and how we somehow ended up working in, I would say, digital exhibition with algorithmic approach, and sometimes also adding machine learning to this kind of approach. But the first project is, in fact, as we have currently an exhibition in Shanghai at the Aiiiii Art Museum, and that it is related somehow to the use of data and data set. I will start with this one, and that's what you can see on the drawing on the screen right now. It is called Platform of Future Past, and as you can see, it's a kind of passageway, an observation desk that is installed within a space. So Aiiii Art Museum is made up of several big spaces, and we occupy one of the big spaces with this installation. It's approximately 30 meters long. So it's really an observation deck somehow, a passageway that connects the entrance of the space we occupy to its exit. So if you enter this passageway somehow, you will walk above the floor, you will observe the floor, and you will have the only option you will have is just to observe and then go out. And if you want to be on the floor, then you have to enter from a different entrance somehow. So the installation creates almost two spaces in the same space. This passageway is organizing a little bit the space around, creating subspaces, which are dedicated, in fact, to other exhibition activities like talks, conferences. Many things are supposed to happen in this space, or were supposed to happen, because, in fact, due to the pandemic, it was pretty quiet for some time. But anyway, that was the idea, that you have this dual space, two spaces in the same space. And from the observation deck, you would also have many monitoring device, like probes that would monitor the atmosphere of the place, the noise, the movements, many things that will trigger and that will register, in fact, data about what is happening on the floor. So the idea behind the project would be that if you monitor as much as you can, somehow you could maybe recreate this moment in the future. Like it's really monitoring a moment, collecting the data with the idea that you could maybe reproduce it, not entirely, but you could reproduce it later. So that's a little bit the idea behind this project. And it presents itself somehow like a sort of scientific experiment that is left alone, that turns from itself alone in the space. So when you see this is the picture of the real installation. You can see on the right this passageway. So on the end of it, on the right, you exit the space, you enter the next space, the next artist exhibition, artist space. But you can see here that you have on the right a probe or a monitoring device that would record some of the events that happen on the floor here. And you have also a projection screen. In fact, the whole structure, the whole architecture is made of screen material. So it really collects and reflects light, and it absorbs somehow lights and what you beam somehow on it. And the idea was also that beside collecting pure data and having data set that you can see here in the form of a graph, you would also collect what is happening, like an archive, what is happening in this space, everything that is happening in this space, the talks, the presence, some events, and that at some point the architecture would trigger this and would replay it, would replay its archive according to several rules. So that was a little bit the idea behind the project. And also here behind the screen, the big screen, you can see some sort of a little building that is closed, and this is somehow the server room and the intelligence of the whole installation is located here. Other pictures from the same project, back to I would say 3D drawings and intentional drawing about the space. So we wanted also at first that this architecture would present pictures of itself, just like if it was not here, trying to hide itself like a kind of ghost presence. So we really wanted to have this dual presence, and if you are in one space, you almost don't see the other, and vice versa somehow. And within the server room, you have here several screens. This is from another installation, but it is a little bit the same in Shanghai at the moment. You have several screens where you can follow the monitoring, where you can see what is happening, what data are being collected. And this is really the center or the server room of this installation. What is important here is that we had to adapt a little bit at start, because we were really in the pandemic period. So in fact, we had to produce data in this case, because the installation was running alone somehow. So we algorithmically produced data for the installation. So for example, what the numbers you can see here, like more than 300,000 data points, or 1,200,000 measurements at probes, and so on. These are artificial data. These are not the real data taken from the space. So it was not that was not really the purpose at the beginning, but it's not really a problem for us, because in some cases we do produce artworks in the form of data sets. So for example, for another work, which is an artificial climate, we deliver the data set in real time of this climate. So you have all the data, like the temperature, the intensity of the light, etc., of this climate, but it doesn't exist. It is delivered in the form of data. And here it is a little bit, the same. So all the presence that is presented on the screen, the activities and so on, are created somehow by algorithms in this case. I say this, even so this was not really the first purpose of this installation, but to say that data sets can be both real, really taken, be very objective somehow, being taken from the physical world with probes and so on, with measurement tools and etc., but they can also be produced. And when we speak about artificial intelligence and the use of data sets and the importance they take in the treatment of the massive treatment of data, the nature of the data is very important. And we can really see that it's pretty easy somehow to modify data set or to corrupt a data set also. So this is important. I will come back later in another project with this idea of artificial data somehow. Other pictures from the same installation where you can see a little bit the affordance somehow of the passageway, what it creates at subspaces, how it organizes space, and this whole architecture made of screens somehow that start to present its archive, I mean, on its surface. And recently I've downloaded some pictures on the internet where I can see that the installation is now being used. You have other sort of archive that appears, other talks and so on. So really the surface becomes really something that delivers somehow its own archive, its own data, and plays with the different moments in time about this whole installation. This is an architectural project, and in fact, it's the base for the installation we made in Shanghai. And I guess it's also because of this project that the curator Fu Liao of the show at the Aiiii Art Museum asked us to do this installation. But in this case, this was really a competition we won for a kind of pavilion, temporary pavilion, unbuilt. It will not be built, unfortunately, but the idea was a little bit the same, that the building would collect a vast amount of information about its surroundings, capture also sounds, images, and so on, and will treat them, I mean, with algorithms somehow, and retrieve them within the space itself and create instructions or give advice to people and so on and so on. The difference here, of course, was that the surrounding here was something that was going to move a lot, change a lot. It was a building site, and the data would be, in this case, coming from the physical world. So they would have this objectivity in this case. But the project shows a little bit our interest into architecture or installation that start to combine and deal between, I would say, the physical environment, the digital information about this environment, the information, the data that you collect, and mix them somehow to create a new environmental condition, really a combined condition. This is another project, and it's really, when I'm speaking about data set or this combi, I mean, really the combinatory between digital and physical, it's a project based on a real program for a building, where we started to develop a kind of a systematic approach to question how you could reorganize architectural programs or activities somehow, depending maybe on new inputs or new information. So what you see here on the left in gray is the start of kind of atomization of an architectural program. It's a top view. You can see tables, beds, elements of architecture or activities somehow at different sizes, separated from one another, each with its own surface somehow. And in color in the bottom is the full program, a traditional full program of a building, where you have the offices, you have it was for a sports room, so you have the sport location, you have the restaurants, you have all these, you have the garden, etc. You have all the activities separated between different functions somehow. And we started to remix this according to new rules. And that's what you see in the center, this kind of patterns of color. And on the right part of the screen, you have the same program somehow being remixed according to different rules in a volume. And our rules would be, for example, what happens if you put all the activities that need to stay in the dark all the time together? What if you put all the activities that need to be very close to a strong network signal together? What happens if you put the activities that need to happen in a cold atmosphere, etc., etc.? And it's a little bit what happens here with this new completely remixed program, where what you had before, like the separation between really precise activities, are being remixed according to environmental condition, and possibly also this combination between the digital and the physical. And of course, what we have here is the start of an algorithm somehow. This was done entirely by hand at the time, but you really have the rules behind it. You have the base of an algorithm, and you can probably, of course, translate this to maybe help investigate bigger programs or more complex situation with the help of algorithms and calculation and computer, of course. So another image of the same program when it remains more like a cloud of activities, and in this case it would remain something pretty immaterial somehow, and it could really go into the direction of a virtual environment in this case, or you could start to physically build the connection and the physical the physical needs around these activities and end up into some kind of architectural building. But the base is really this atomization of functions. And this brings me to curation somehow and back to exhibitions. These are images when we really started to work, translate this intention into algorithms somehow. So you can place sensor, the image in the center is a sensor. You can place sensor in any space, collect data about this space, environmental data. In this case, on the top right is really the graph of the space where you have the intensity of the network signal, for example. And on the left, the algorithms start to put together, reassemble particles or atomized activities, functions, can to assemble themselves in new way according to these patterns and according to the environmental information you have from the environment. And back to the museum here, this was an exhibition that happened at the Haus der Elektronischen Künste in Basel 2 years ago, I think, curated by Sabine Himmelsbach and Boris Magrini. And the exhibition was about artworks that were using artificial intelligence in the production of their work. And Boris and Sabine asked us if we could maybe develop a proposition that would also use automated procedures, maybe machine learning as well, to help curate the show and possibly entirely organize the space of the exhibition. And what I explained before, the use of data set, both real and artificial data set, the algorithmic base we developed with those atoms, we started to use them as well here in the context of exhibition and the placement of artworks. So here you have 3 screens to present the visual output of what is going on. One is text-based. It goes very quick and accelerates the movement somehow. When an exhibition is reached, a result is reached, it is printed. So that's what you see with the printer. And the box on the right is all the server that help us run the application. And here you see the process going on where every element for the exhibition were part of our data set. So both the artworks and the walls, the lighting system, etc., all atomized somehow. We were looking to reorganize things together, both with real values of sensors. So it would produce also a map that you can see on the bottom here. For example, the lighting intensity of the setup, but also the artworks would bring with themselves information. So these are artificial sensors somehow. For example, an artwork would tell I'm producing a lot of light, or I need distance of seeing from myself, or I produce volume, I produce audio, or instead I need silence. So this information will help map the environment, create the environment, and then the artwork based on those objectives somehow, data and information would start to organize themselves alone during the process. I have a video that I could show, but I will rather share the link later because I know I'm already running late. But it just shows the process a little bit, and you can really see how quick it goes, or what is happening, and etc. etc. I will share this in the chat later. In the background, you also see just glimpses of scripts. We have very high-level script that help us write really the rules that connect things together. And here an image of the exhibition itself, where you can see that this kind of aggregation of elements start to appear also in the space where things are put together, maybe not in a the result that came out from the process were not the ones we would do without this tool. So the tool has definitely an importance and an impact on the result. But then the whole installation was produced with the help, and I insisted, with the help of those tools. I mean, both algorithmic and machine learning tools that help us reach results. But then we kept the final touch. I mean, the final go in the end was from the curator and from ourselves to organize the space. So we took really the information and we organized them by themselves in the end. And I end with two more projects. You still have those scripts in the background, so they are very important because it's really a scripting language that is related to this atomization of, I would say, activities, and we can really address different kind of contexts with this. And the art context is one of the contexts, but as you have seen, it more started into architecture somehow. And this is another approach we had with the Aiiiii Art Center in Seoul, with the artworks of Aiiiii. So it's really an experimental project. It's a research project in collaboration also with the art school where I'm teaching, the ECAL, where we would use the data set of digitized artworks from the collection to display them in a kind of personal museum in anybody's house. So you can really, with what I said before, with the artworks being elements or atomized elements and a tool that helps you understand any type of environment, this is what augmented reality display are doing today. And with rules, you can really start to create on the fly a personal exhibition in any place with potentially a very huge data set behind it. So of course, this is interesting for collections and big museums and things like this. So this is one of the ongoing work. And the last slide I'm showing is another ongoing work, and this will be presented at the end of the year at the ZKM in Karlsruhe, the Zentrum für Kunst und Medien in Karlsruhe. And it's a little bit similar to what we are doing with what we did with Aiiiii, but there it's really the remixing of past exhibitions. So the Zentrum has a big work going on, a big research going on about past exhibition and the digital presentation of past exhibition. And we are kind of remixing this exhibition in a hybrid space. So this will be presented in the museum with an immersive experience somehow, but it will remain virtual and not augmented in this case. And I will really close my presentation with this slide and this last project, and I hope I will be able to share the result with you again at another time, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick, for your very interesting presentation. I think we can include the video link afterwards, so everyone can receive it by email. If you already have questions, you can type the questions in the Q&A box. And for now, we will move on to our second speaker, Ms. Xi Li. And she is a curator and director of Aiiii Art Center based in Shanghai. She has curated various international exhibitions with a special focus on AI art. And she has an education background in narrative environments and art management. Now let's welcome Xi.
Hello, everyone. Now let me share my screen. Can you see my screen? Cici, can you see?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for having me. And curation and AI both are quite broad topics. So for narrowing down this topic in the presentation, I will talk about the same based on the experience of my institution, Aiiii Art Center practices. And this is our logo. Wait a moment, sorry. Hold on a second. I'm so sorry being interrupted. So I'm going to talk about two programs of our institution do. One is about AAI International Conference on AI Art. Another one is about exhibition, The Book of Sound at the Aiiii Art Center. And in between, I'm going to show some images of this institution. And during introducing the program, there are going to be 3 points I'm focusing on. One is about AI and authorship, and another one is what is AI art, AI as a topic or media in context of contemporary art. And the third one is about a little bit narration in the context of AI or curation. So the first crime is about Aiiii International Conference, and this conference is organized by Aiiii Art Center and also Art and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory at Tongji University. And we started this conference from last year, and the first conference was titled by what is the author, combining with multiple discipline experts. When talking about AI, and the priority question usually is about who is the artist, who is the author. However, we use what instead of who to leave a potential position for machines. And this is image on site. And actually this May, we also had the second online conference because of the COVID. The topic is artificial intelligence. It's kind of like stepping further based on what is the author. This time the idea is more focusing on challenging the process of artists' choices during selecting machines' works, if randomness means creative. During collaborating with machine, artists' role are more like curators, curating the data sets, selecting the artworks from the machine's endless results. And when proceeding these themes, it's hardly to avoid ontology questions like what is art, what is creation, what is imagination, and what is artificial, and so on. And some experts also talk about this direction. And we, during this direction, we share all the conference contents on the YouTube. Welcome to check out and discuss them with us together. And now it comes to the practice of the Aiiii Art Center. I'm going to show some images of this center. And actually, it is transformed from an old abandoned heating factory. We try to keep the original natural situation. And this is the inside. And this is our dark room. And this is a main exhibition space. And you can tell like there are several unique space scenarios for the exhibitions. And when showing the space, and actually it leads us to two questions. One is that how to physicalize the digital artworks in the space. And another question is how to visualize AI art. Because, for instance, like when we are going to show the topic of the conference, and it's rare to find the works to only focus on the topic, what is the author. So we have to choose another frame for the curating. Then it comes to these two questions lead us to the first exhibition, the Book of Science. And we were willing to, as mentioned, we were willing to continue the topic of the conference. And it was happened last year. So the main topic is about what is the author. And the priority is to telling a good story to get people's attention on AI art. In this case, we used to use literature help us to narrate this exhibition. And the exhibition starts by exploring literary imagination to display seemingly infinite random generative arts. And the Borges Book of Science, it describes a book there is neither a beginning or an end, just like sand. A book in which I, the subject, can turn the page but cannot predict the outcome, just as we cannot fully prehend the operational logic of the black box embedded by and into a neural network. Against the joy of possessing the book, growing the fear that the book is not really infinite, just as we fear that the infinite productivity of AI, which makes us its captives, as well as the fear that its infinite creative is simply the outcome of small permutations of existing human ideas. Now I'm going to show a glance of the artworks and the way of displaying. And this installation is named Artificial Resonance from Entangle Others Studio. And they use 3D games to create this work. And the main concept is this project is part of an ongoing exploration of artificial life using deep learning to generate insects, as well as their names and anatomical descriptions. The intention is to celebrate the natural diversity of insectile life. And in this project, the insulatable installation actually commissioned by Aiiii Art Center, and we created this work together with the artists because of the special structure of the space. You can tell the height is the construction is very high, so we need a big installation here. So we imagine that the resonance could become huge and occupy people's attention. And luckily, we did it successfully. And I can show some. This is the image in daytime, and this is in the night. And also in our dark room, we also show Entangle Others another work beneath the neural waves. And the whole here actually are original. So we based on the original structures. Again, collaborated with the artists to create a new scenario or a say scenario for the artworks to display this new digital creatures. And this is also a clip of the exhibition. And again, this 3D resonance also collaborate with artists, and we produce it in China. And this is the works in our main hall. And here I'm going to introduce, mention a bit about the work, Mend the Script from certain measures. And this is also the installation in the middle, also commissioned by Aiiii Art Center for our opening. And the original work or the main concept is artists using computer vision and construction automation to convert waste into resource. And we collaborate with artists. The original size is 1 meter, and we the installation here, actually the tall is 4 meter, and all made in metal. And we sort of like, apart from display, collaborating with the artists to display their concept, and also we would like to visualize their concept into the space. And this is another work from Jake Elwes. And this work actually was a website page, and it can interact with the audience. The audience can choose the figures to perform. And we collaborated with artists to visualize it in this space and staging up all the figures. And this show actually is the main concept of this work is deepfake drag performance. And the artists use a virtual online stage hosting a groundbreaking new show with a twist. It features acts that have been constructed using deepfake technology, learning how to do drag by watching a diverse group of human performers. This show dissects one of the dominant myths about AI. The notion of an AI is a thing we might mistake for a person. And the last work I would like to show is one piece from a Chinese artist named Dabei, and this project is named Text Gene Project. And again, it was a website page artwork, and we collaborated with artists to specialize this online work into spatial installations. And this space actually was a tunnel for choral delivery, and we're transforming it into the spatial based. And during these the two programs I introduced, and we're always concerning about the relationship between AI and authorship, and it's hardly to avoid talk about what's the definition of AI art and AI as a topic or a media in our exhibition. And mostly we talk when we choose artists, and most of the artists has to be based on AI technique. So for displaying the artwork, and we tended to say AI as a media and to extend this topic. But when it comes to conference, AI become a broad topic, and the mainly content is about the potential of AI itself. So I think when it comes to curation and narration of the AI, and it's hardly to avoid these two questions. And also we're facing that, who is our target audience? And for conference, probably our main target audience are scholars, so we do it academic. But when it comes to exhibition, and if our target audience is the general public, we have to tell another story for AI art. And also, there are still several questions challenging our curatorial process. For instance, like, there has to be a curator or a creator's name in the exhibition? For instance, like, we're always thinking about that the artists, when they collaborated with machines, do we have to put artist name there? Or if it's possible that all of the audiences in AI context could be curators and artists. And the machine, what's the machine's role in the art scenario? That's always questioning us that how to narrate this story in the exhibitions? What's the labels behind the artworks? And that's all my content. Thank you.
Thank you, Li for your presentation and also your last questions. I think with your last questions, we can directly go into the discussion part. So I will invite Patrick to turn on the camera. Okay, so actually, I would like to direct your questions to Patrick. So what is your opinion on that? Is there has to be a curator's name or creator's name in the art?
There were several questions here. Do we still need the artist name? Are the audience the artist, or etc.? So, and I think, thank you for the question, because I was more presenting what we're doing without really asking questions. So it's very important to have the questions about the work in general. Speaking for what we are doing, I think that what is within the algorithms we are doing is really our work. I mean, it's the natural continuity or result of more than 15 years of research and experimentation. And it's just that at one point it started to make sense. And that's what I tried also to explain in the presentation. It started to make sense to have the input of artificial intelligence, automation, etc., to maybe dig more complex problem that we couldn't dig in a more conventional way. So I think it's really, I would say that the algorithms are the artworks somehow now in our work. And if you ask me if you should put the name of the artist when you exhibit the work, I would say yes, because we are the creator of the creator. But it's a different case. I think each case is different because if you use, for example, open source software that you can now find online to produce images, or now we start to see also 3D works that are produced by algorithms, then what is behind is certainly totally different. We don't really know what is behind, by the way, who produced the algorithms, where the data set comes from. But in any case, there is always a huge data set, I think, behind any machine learning software. And without this, the algorithms couldn't do anything. For example, if you have a machine that is trained to produce paintings, I don't know, but you ask it to make you a coffee, it will not know how to make a coffee. So it's really trained on something, and this something I think becomes important in the context of artificial intelligence. What is the something behind the tool? And then it will also give you a different answer if you have to put the name of the artist, the audience, or the engineer. That's my point of view on this question somehow.
Thank you. And looking at the Q&A box here, and we've received several questions. And one of the questions also touched a bit on Li Xi's final quote. So this is a question on the role of audience from Luca Foccucci. So what become the role of audience if its presence can be generated artificially? What are the models used to generate audience? I guess this is for Patrick.
Yeah, hello, Luca. I know Luca. Thank you to be there and wake up early in your place. So yes, this is, I think the question is really related to the first project I presented in connection to the How Art Museum. And it is also a very specific context because the exhibition was closed almost just after the opening. And At first, it was, in fact, it was really supposed to be real data coming from the audience, but we had to invent something else due to the fact that it will be silent for long times. Then maybe there will be a very short event for 1 or 2 days, then again silent, and so on. So we came up with this idea of generated data about the audience here, which is somehow a problem with the installation, but not entirely, because the installation is a little bit ambiguous about what is happening in the space. So there is a little bit of a narration around the work that says that maybe we are already replaying something that happened in the past, or what you can see maybe is not really happening, etc., etc. Well, it's based on a book, in fact, that is called The City and the City, where you have 2 cities that coexist in the same place, and people cannot really see each other while they live in the same place. So the fact that in this case the audience is generated, I think is still okay with the work. But of course, if you would really do this in a different situation where you don't have a pandemic and an exhibition that is closed for a long time, I think it would need to be done in a different way, and that's certainly the audience that is present in the space has an impact. Even so, the data are generated, they have an impact on this data somehow, so that they can really feel a sort of interaction with the space and with the piece. Not to say that the piece should adapt to the audience. I don't really like this kind of approach, because it's a little bit redundant somehow as an approach. But that the data and the presence create also an environment somehow that you can inhabit pretty freely. Well, I don't know if I answer very well to this question, but, or if I add some complexity, but
yeah, I think we can organize an internal discussion with Luca, because Luca is also one of our previous speakers, and yeah, we have a good connection with him. I think we have really a lot to talk about this, and but now we have to move to the second question, and this is from Alexa. This question is for Li Xi. For your exhibitions, do you feel the works are 50-50 between artists and AI, or do they learn more to one side or the other? Beautiful building too.
Actually, during or for preparing the exhibition, we always ask the question: do you think what's the role of AI in your artwork? Is your partner, your assistant, or only a tool? And for when I talked to Entangle others, and they mentioned about that in the very beginning of using AI, they feel like AI is quite magic and can create something. But when during the experience of using AI, they found like actually there are many limitations of artificial intelligence, probably because of the limits of the technique. And so during the process, and they found out like the AI just is a tool to help them to organize the data and producing the sort of like the middle process of the artwork, and the works the artists do. And also we checked with the other artists, and some thinking like because of the development of the algorithm, and for instance, in the very beginning, probably they only produce when collaborating with AI, they produce the work very slow, and they did a lot of efforts and wait for the results. But based on the development of the AI models, and they produce the works very quickly. Even they do all the artworks by themselves or themselves and the AI. So the the algorithm, the development of algorithm also helps them to think about AI as a very useful assistant or collaborator to work effectively. And so in my opinion, as a curator, to think about AI and artists, and we feel like because of AI is not like the traditional media, like a pen or, or a photograph or something, or there are some similar aspects of these medias we can continue to communicate about. And also like because of the data side, because of the input and the output, and we saw the potential of creation. And also like we have plenty ideas to continue the definition of creation, right? So based on this scenario, and we would like to, open up the discussion between machine and the human being to say what's the potentials of a machine. For instance, like our this year's conference, Artificial Imaginations, we come up with this idea that the AI produce endless results and the artists make choice, right? And when you make choice, you decide. And there is a saying that in quantum, when you look at it, it's only one result, but without observing, there are two possibilities. So if the artists stop AI's creation, is there other angles to check out the creation of AI? That's the thing we are looking for answers or more discussion. I think that's more meaningful to explore.
Yeah, I also think it's it's much more interesting to look at the process than the result when we are looking at the AI generated works. And now we have another question for Patrick, also from Alexa. Have you looked at ways to physically change the architecture in real time based on inputs, or has it all been virtual to now?
So yes, up to now it has been virtual, but almost, because for example the exhibition in Basel at the HEC was built in the end, but it was static when it was built. Then after that we couldn't change anymore the physical space. While the installation, in fact, the screens that I showed before were continuing, in fact, to produce new exhibitions. So in parallel, we produced, the setup continued to produce new results. Almost, 600 different exhibitions were produced during the exhibition. So it was a kind of parallel process that went on. And another work that I showed, that was this long platform also, which was the inspiration somehow for the installation in Shanghai. This was supposed to evolve along the time. So as it was, you could really reconfigure a little bit the architecture along the time it will be built somehow, because it was really built out of scaffolding elements. And the idea was that it could or would evolve if you have the budget, of course, because then it costs quite some money. But anyway, the idea that the environment could evolve I think is part of the algorithm that I tried to speak about, because you can really give this instruction to something that is mobile, for example. In the case of the exhibition at the HEC, I said that 600 exhibitions were produced during the exhibition. So depending on how the artworks are present in the space, they could be also somehow mobile and reorganize themselves in the physical space. This has been done also with robots at the Palais Tokyo in Paris, I think, not with artificial intelligence, but just something that reorganized itself. So I think it's clearly part of it, but architecture is not really planned to be completely reorganized right now. I mean, the overall building and so on is it's a pretty heavy construction, while maybe the activities inside, I think, could be pretty easily reorganized according to outputs.
Yeah, I think maybe in metaverse, we can develop it more easily. Okay, we have another question here to Li Xi. It's from Marcel. I'm very interested in Xi Li's comment about physicalizing our AI artworks, which first exist in code and perhaps on some website. So what do we gain from giving these works a physical dimension, and how does the audience experience such physicalizations?
Yeah, I think because, for instance, like when showing the works, as I mentioned, we got a lot of challenges. And also like our main purpose is to engage people in the discussion of AI art, right? So we have to, to focus on the experience. And when narrate the exhibition experience, and there are two things we have to be careful. One is that we really wanted to communicate the artist's intention to effectively to the audience. We wanted to let the audience impressed by the artworks. For instance, like when we imagine, like when people see the artworks, they don't know if they use AI or not. It doesn't matter. And they saw a really good artwork. Then they started to check out like what it is and what's the material or media. Then say, oh, it's made by AI, then be curious about AI. That's our main purpose. And also like when people go inside, experience the artwork, we're only focusing on let people experiencing a story. Then that's will lead us to get attention from people and to talk about AI art together. And also we feel like it's only the very beginning of a discussion about AI art, even we didn't have the definition of AI art. So we would like to involve the audience in the very beginning, and spatialize the artworks is the most important step for us to start this conversation. Yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you, Li Xi. As we are reaching the time limit, we will close this discussion now. So for our audience, if you still have questions, you can write to us at artscience.china@swissnex.org. And we also have on the screen the QR codes for our social media channels you can follow. You can follow our channels and to stay tuned with us. And we are looking forward to see you again in our future events. Thank you, and thank to our speakers and our colleagues at the backstage. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.